I thought I had finally escaped my toxic ex until a friend showed me a photo that changed everything in one heartbeat and forced me to fight for my safety, like I never had before while rebuilding my life. If you ever want to know what it feels like to have your heart ripped out of your chest while strangers laugh about it online, try finding out your boyfriend thinks you're a burden during a Facebook Live. My name's Marissa. I'm 26. And up until 3 weeks ago, I honestly believed I was building a life with the man I loved. Caleb and I had been together for 3 years. 3 years of late-night ramen runs, helping him job hunt after he got laid off, celebrating every tiny win like it was the Super Bowl. 3 years where I thought we were a team. Now, I realize I was just convenient. It all started on a random Thursday afternoon. I was sitting in the break room at my office, halfway through reheating my sad desk lunch, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my best friend, Rachel. "Oh my God. Marissa, you need to see this. Call me." Attached was a Facebook Live link. I clicked, thinking maybe it was a funny meme or something. But no, it was Caleb, at his high school reunion, half drunk, half hanging off a group of his old buddies. The banner behind them said, "Class of 2015, best years ever." How ironic. At first it seemed harmless, just drunk dudes reminiscing. Then someone off camera yelled, "Yo, Caleb, how's the old ball and chain?" Caleb laughed, not just a chuckle, a full chest-shaking laugh. And then, with that same grin I thought was reserved for our private jokes, he said, "Man, I'm carrying the most boring girlfriend on earth. But hey, she pays her half of the rent on time. So, win-win, right?" The crowd around him howled. Someone clapped him on the back so hard he nearly spilled his beer. Another guy shouted, "Bro, you're practically doing charity work." And Caleb, the man who used to trace hearts on my back while I fell asleep, just laughed harder. I couldn't move. I couldn't even blink. My microwaved pasta sat forgotten in front of me while I watched the man I thought would propose this Christmas humiliate me to 100 people live. And God knows how many more once it started getting shared. By the time I managed to hit pause, the video already had 2,400 views. Rachel called before I could even process. "Marissa, are you okay? I'm so sorry. I didn't know how else to tell you." I mumbled something, probably a lie about being fine, and hung up. My whole body felt frozen. I should have been angry. I should have been devastated. Instead, there was just this cold emptiness spreading through my chest. I packed up my lunch, told my boss I wasn't feeling well, and somehow drove home without crashing my car. I don't even remember the drive. I just remember sitting on my bed, still in my work clothes, replaying his words in my head over and over. Carrying the most boring girlfriend on earth. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. I opened a new browser tab and started looking up cheap extended stay hotels. Then I called my cousin Emily, who lived across town, and asked if her couch was still available. She didn't even ask why. She just said, "Come over, I'll order pizza." Before leaving, I grabbed a duffel bag. Essentials only. Toothbrush, charger, 2 changes of clothes. I didn't want anything more. I didn't want to give myself a reason to come back. By the time I finished packing, Caleb had texted twice. "Hope the reunion isn't too boring without you here, LOL. You still up for movie night later?" Not a single word about the video. Not even a hint that he knew what he'd done. That's when I realized he didn't think he had done anything wrong. He thought I would just take it. Like always. I left the apartment without looking back. As I was pulling out of the parking lot, my phone buzzed again. Another text. But it wasn't from Caleb this time. It was Jason, one of Caleb's oldest friends. Someone I hadn't spoken to much beyond polite hellos at parties. His message sent a chill straight down my spine. "Hey, Marissa. There's something you should know about what Caleb's been planning. Call me when you can." When Jason said there was something I needed to know, I knew it wasn't going to be good. But nothing could have prepared me for what he was about to tell me. I pulled over into a grocery store parking lot, hands shaking as I dialed his number. He picked up on the first ring. "Marissa," he said, sounding almost out of breath. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. I didn't know if I should get involved, but after tonight, I can't stay quiet. What are you talking about, Jason? I managed to choke out. He hesitated for a second, then said the words that made my stomach drop. Caleb's been trying to make you break up with him for months. The video tonight wasn't an accident. It was planned. The world tilted for a second. I gripped the steering wheel, trying to breathe. Jason kept talking, spilling everything like he'd been holding it in for too long. Apparently, back in January, Caleb started complaining to his friends that our relationship was getting too serious. He didn't want to be the bad guy by ending it, especially since we shared so many friends, and according to Jason, you're too nice, and he knew everyone would take your side. So he decided to force my hand. Subtle digs at my looks, flaking on plans, picking fights over nothing. And finally, the grand finale. Publicly humiliating me so I'd leave without him having to get his hands dirty. The Facebook Live was the cherry on top. A calculated move. Jason said he hadn't known all the details until tonight, when he overheard Caleb laughing with another guy, bragging about how easy it had been to push me away. I sat there in my car, blinking at the dashboard, while Jason apologized again and again. I told him it wasn't his fault. Thanked him for telling me. Hung up. Then I sat in the dark for a long time, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. It wasn't just a drunken slip. It wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. He planned to break my heart in the most humiliating way possible. By the time I got to Emily's apartment, I was vibrating with anger. Not the hot, explosive kind of anger. The cold, steady kind that fills every inch of you until you can barely breathe. Emily took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug without saying a word. We spent the rest of the night on her couch, my head on her shoulder, rewatching old episodes of Parks and Rec without really paying attention. Every now and then, my phone would light up with another text from Caleb, acting like nothing had happened. Miss you, babe. Movie night still on? You're being dramatic. Each message felt like another slap to the face. By midnight, I had blocked his number, his Facebook, his Instagram, even his Venmo. I deleted every picture of us from my phone. I unfollowed all his friends except Jason. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought Caleb would get the hint and move on. I was wrong. Because the next morning, as Emily and I were getting ready to head out for breakfast, there was a loud knock on her door. I froze. Emily peeked through the peephole, then turned to me, her face pale. It's him. My heart slammed against my ribs. I shook my head. Don't open it, I whispered. But Caleb wasn't taking no for an answer. He started banging on the door, louder and louder, yelling my name. Marissa, please, just talk to me. It was a joke. You're overreacting. Neighbors started peeking out of their doors. Someone down the hall called, Dude, go home. Emily grabbed her phone to call the cops, but before she could even finish dialing, Caleb shouted something that made my blood run cold. Something that flipped everything I thought I knew about the situation upside down. If you don't come out, Marissa, I'm going to tell everyone about what you did. Emily and I stared at each other, stunned. What the hell was he talking about? What did he think he could possibly have on me? I didn't know then, but I was about to find out. And it would change everything. When Caleb screamed that threat through the door, time froze. For a second, all I could hear was the rush of blood pounding in my ears. Emily was still clutching her phone, her thumb hovering over the call button, but neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. What could he possibly have on me? My mind raced through every memory, every conversation, every stupid thing I might have ever said or done. But nothing came to mind. Nothing that could possibly justify him standing outside, yelling threats like a cornered animal. Emily leaned in and whispered, You want me to call the cops? I nodded, feeling my throat close up. But just as she started to dial, Caleb's voice shifted. Gone was the rage. Now it was pleading, desperate. Marissa, please. You don't understand. I didn't mean it like that. Just, please talk to me. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Instead, I sat there on the floor, hugging my knees to my chest, while Emily told the dispatcher there was a man outside threatening the residents. It took less than 5 minutes for the patrol car to show up. Caleb must have seen the flashing lights because the pounding stopped. Through the peephole, we watched him stumble backward, hands up, trying to explain himself to the officer. Emily and I didn't open the door. We just listened. Eventually, the officer escorted him out of the building. No handcuffs, but at least he was gone. For the moment. After the police left, Emily turned to me, her face still pale. "You okay?" I shook my head. "I don't know, I don't know what he's talking about. I didn't do anything." And that was the worst part. The not knowing. The waiting for the next shoe to drop. The next morning, the first message came. A random Instagram account I didn't recognize. No profile picture, no followers, just a DM. "You're not as innocent as you pretend to be. Caleb told me everything." Then another, 5 minutes later. "Maybe you should tell your friends how you cheated on him first." I felt the blood drain from my face. It was insane. I hadn't cheated. Not even close. But Caleb was trying to rewrite history, painting himself as the victim, the poor guy driven to act out because of my supposed betrayal. I sat there, staring at the screen, hands trembling with rage. He was trying to ruin my name now. Not content with breaking my heart, he wanted to destroy my reputation too. Over the next few hours, it escalated. Anonymous comments under old posts, weird DMS from strangers. Even one email to my work account, hinting that I was untrustworthy in my personal life. Emily and Jason both told me to ignore it, to let Caleb burn himself out. But I knew him better than that. He wouldn't stop until he felt like he had won. I spent that night tossing and turning, thinking about every possible way to fight back. Part of me wanted to post screenshots, blast him publicly, let everyone see who he really was. But another part, the part that still remembered how small and exhausted I had felt sitting in that car outside the grocery store, knew better. I didn't want to play his game. I wanted to end it, permanently. So the next day, I made a decision. I reached out to an old friend of Caleb's, someone he'd screwed over years ago and who, conveniently, still had a massive chip on his shoulder. His name was Trent. Trent didn't even hesitate when I explained what was happening. He just said, "Meet me at the diner at noon. Bring your phone." So there I was, sitting in a cracked vinyl booth, hands wrapped around a mug of terrible coffee, when Trent slid a flash drive across the table like we were in a bad spy movie. "I kept some receipts," he said with a grin. "Figured they might come in handy someday." I took the drive, heart pounding. That night, I plugged it into Emily's laptop, not sure what to expect. What I found made my stomach turn. Hundreds of screenshots. Texts from Caleb bragging about playing multiple women at once. Conversations where he laughed about how easy it was to gaslight girls into staying. Even messages from before we met, where he and his friends talked about finding someone stable to split rent with. I wasn't special. I wasn't even a real person to him. I was a business transaction. And the whole 3 years we spent together, it had been a calculated move from the start. Finding out I was just a business transaction to Caleb should have broken me. Instead, it lit a fire under me. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt powerful. Trent's flash drive was a goldmine of Caleb's worst instincts preserved in black and white. Evidence that he had never loved me. Not really. Evidence that he'd used me. And if he wanted to destroy my name, I wasn't going to sit back and let him. I spent the next 2 days methodically organizing everything Trent had given me. I saved every screenshot, backed them up to a secure cloud folder, printed hard copies and sealed them in an envelope. It wasn't revenge out of spite. It was self-defense. I wasn't going to stoop to Caleb's level with drunken rants or passive-aggressive posts. I was going to dismantle his lies quietly, cleanly, and most importantly, permanently. First move, our shared friend group. Caleb had been working overtime to spin the narrative that I was some unstable ex lashing out because I couldn't handle rejection. So I chose 5 people, friends I had real history with, and sent them a simple, emotionless message. Hey, just wanted you to hear it from me. I'm not engaging with Caleb's stories. Here are some things you might want to see before you decide what to believe. Attached were a few choice screenshots, nothing exaggerated, just the truth, plain and sharp like broken glass. The reactions came fast. One called me crying, apologizing for ever doubting me. Another unfollowed Caleb on the spot and texted me a screenshot for proof. A third admitted Caleb had been love-bombing a new girl for weeks, someone from his new job, which he lost after showing up drunk, by the way. Piece by piece, the false image Caleb tried to paint of me crumbled. And I didn't have to scream or beg. I just showed them who he really was and let the truth do the work. Second move, my career. I had been worried about the anonymous email that hinted I was untrustworthy. So I requested a meeting with my manager, Ms. Chen, and laid it all out. No sob story, no drama, just the facts. A personal relationship had ended badly. Someone was retaliating online. And if any more anonymous tips came through, I wanted her to know the full context. Ms. Chen listened without interrupting. At the end, she leaned forward and said, "We judge you by your work, Marissa. And your work speaks for itself. You're fine here." Relief flooded through me so hard I almost cried. Almost. Because I still had one more move to make. The final move. The one that would ensure Caleb couldn't keep weaponizing our past against me. I reached out to a lawyer. Nothing dramatic. Just a cease and desist letter. Drafted, signed, and delivered to Caleb's last known address, his mom's house, via certified mail. In it, we outlined the harassment, the defamation, the pattern of unwanted contact. One more step out of line and we'd escalate to a restraining order. It was professional. It was calm. It was terrifyingly effective. I didn't hear a word from Caleb for a full week. No texts, no fake accounts, no tantrums outside Emily's door. I thought that was it. I thought it was finally over, until the night of Emily's birthday dinner. We were at a little Italian place downtown, surrounded by friends and laughter and garlic bread, when Jason, bless his nosy heart, checked his phone and went pale. He shoved it in front of my face without a word. It was Caleb's Instagram story. A blurry photo, clearly taken through a car windshield, of a building. My building. Captioned, "Some things are worth fighting for." My fork clattered to the table. He was outside, right now, watching me. The second I saw that photo, my body went cold. Emily grabbed her keys. Jason was already halfway to the door. We didn't even wait for the check. We just ran. I called Miguel on the way, voice shaking so bad it took me 3 tries to get the words out. He and Tanya were at my apartment in under 10 minutes, waiting by the entrance like bouncers at a nightclub. But when we pulled up, Caleb was gone. The parking lot was empty. The street was quiet. If not for the gut-churning fear still twisting in my stomach, I might have thought it was all in my head. But Jason had the screenshot. The timestamp matched the time we were sitting in the restaurant. He had been there, watching, waiting. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the building made me jump. Every shadow outside my window had me reaching for my phone. By morning, I was done. No more waiting. No more hiding. No more letting Caleb make me feel like a prisoner in my own life. I called my lawyer. We filed for a restraining order that afternoon. I handed over the flash drive, the screenshots, the cease and desist letter he ignored, the Instagram story. Every creepy, calculated move he'd made was laid out piece by piece like a roadmap of his obsession. It didn't take long. The judge granted a temporary order on the spot, with a hearing set for 2 weeks later to make it permanent. I thought Caleb might finally get the hint, but he didn't. 2 days after filing, he showed up again. Not at my apartment, at my job. I had just finished with a client when the front desk buzzed to tell me someone was asking for me. When I looked through the security camera feed and saw him pacing outside, holding what looked like a gift bag, I felt something inside me snap. Not fear, not sadness, pure, blinding rage. I didn't go out there. I didn't give him the confrontation he wanted. I called the police, gave them the restraining order paperwork, stood behind the glass and watched as they pulled him away in handcuffs, the pathetic little gift bag swinging from his wrist. Turns out he'd packed it with a stuffed bear and a handwritten letter. 7 pages of apologies, excuses, and, of course, more declarations of love. It didn't matter. Because this time, he wasn't just facing my anger. He was facing legal consequences. Caleb was charged with violating a restraining order and harassment. His mugshot made it onto one of those local news crime blotters, the kind that people screenshot and send to their group chats for entertainment. His mom posted some cringy Facebook rant about how love makes people do crazy things, but nobody bought it. By the time the permanent restraining order was issued, Caleb had lost more than just me. He lost friends. He lost his job. He lost the carefully crafted image of being the good guy who just made a mistake. And me? I got my life back. It wasn't easy. Some nights I still woke up panicked, thinking I heard him outside. Some mornings I still checked my back seat before driving to work. Healing isn't linear, but it's happening. Last week, I finally redecorated my bedroom, painted the walls sage green, hung fairy lights over my bed, tossed out every trace of the life I built with Caleb and started building one just for me. For the first time in a long time, when I look around, I see a future that's mine. Not a placeholder in someone else's plan, not a convenience, not a transaction. Just me. And honestly, that's the real victory. Sometimes justice doesn't come in loud victories or viral callouts. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, relentless, like the sunrise after the longest night of your life. If you've ever had to rebuild yourself after someone tried to break you, drop a 9 in the comments. Your story matters. You matter. And if you enjoy real-life emotional stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe for more. Because trust me, sometimes the trash really does take itself out.